Hi, my name is Akshaj and this is episode number 11 of Python Mastery. Till now we have covered arithmetic operators, comparison operators, and now we talk about logical operators. Logical operators are how you combine the boolean functions true and false. Instead of checking them one condition at a time, you check 2, 3 or how many you want. And Python evaluates the whole thing as a single true or false. Today we also cover and, or, and not, and we built a login eligibility checker and look at one of the behavior of these operators that surprises almost everyone the first time they see it. And we here at the VS Code editor, and first we'll start with the AND operator. And okay, so for example we'll print some values true and true, and we'll also type say true and false. And why I'm doing this you'll see in a second. False and true, and the last one is print false and false, boolean operators. And now we'll hit enter. As you can see, what you can see here, and returns true only if both sides are true. If one side fails, the entire thing fails. Think it of as a chain, every link has to hold. Now we'll check with some real conditions. For example, we have age equals 20 and we have has id is true. TRU. And now we'll write a print statement where we say if age is greater than equal to 18 and has an id. Okay, simple. It gives us true because both conditions pass. Age is at least 18 and they have an id, so it change either one. For example, if I change, for example, this is 18, if I say 17, this was true before in the case of 20, but now as it's 17 it becomes false, and false and true gives us false, as you see here, so it returns false. We have talked about and, now we'll talk about the or. We'll write the same thing as before, you see here, but now instead of and we'll change everywhere with or. And now we'll hit enter. And now what do you see? Or returns true when at least one side is true. If both sides fail, then it only gives us false. We can think it of as a fallback. If first option works, great. If not, try the second one. Now, as we have done before, we'll write another code and we'll check. So we wrote is student variable as false and age is 22. So first this checks is student or the age is less than equal to 25. As this was false, but as 22 is less than equal to 25, it is true. So false and true gives us true, as you can see here. But now if I want to, if I change one value, for example, I say it 50 or 45, and now enter it, it gives me false because 45 is greater than 25, so it will give me false. We have talked about and, we have talked about or, and now we'll talk about the simplest one, not. So not is very simple. It is basically nothing. Not, if you tried not true, it gives me false, and opposite, if I write not false, it will give me true. So whatever it gets, it returns the opposite. Now we'll add a small condition code where, for example, I have is band say equals false, and we tried print statement where not is underscore band. As we said, is band is false, it gives us true. It reads almost like English, and that is clearly the point. So the real power is now combining all of them. So we'll add a small condition code. For example, we'll write age equals 20, it is a student, it is true, and sorry, one more line, and say is band is a false. Now we'll check, write a print statement and tell Python to check if age is greater than equal to 18 and it is a student and not is banned. I'm gonna run this and it gives me a true because all three conditions are satisfied. They are old enough, they are a student, and they are not banned. And it's very important to keep in mind that Python evaluates all these from left to right and respects the operator precedence. So not, you always have to remember that it is left and right, and not is always greater than and is always greater than or. So when in doubt, we use parentheses to make this intent explicit. For example, I have a same code, but what I've did is I wrote age, it checks first, age is greater than equal to 18. Then we wrote and we check if it's a student or it is less than age is less than 25, and we also check if it's not banned. And when I run this, it gives me true because parenthesis does not control the evaluation order. They just make the logic readable at a glance, and future you will appreciate it more. Now we'll talk about something different. Here is the behavior that surprises most people. Python does not always evaluate both sides of a logical expression. With and, the left side is false, Python stops. The right side cannot save it. For example, I have a function called checking function, check, and it first checks, it gives me a print statement that check was called and returns true. And then we write a print statement outside where it checks if false and check. So when I run it, it tells me false and check were called but never printed. Python saw false on the left of and the result could not be true, and it's kept the right side entirely. Same idea with or. If the left side is true, Python stops. For example, now I'll write true or check. It gives me true because left side was not enough. Left side was enough. So this is called short circuit evaluation. It's not a quirk, it is intentional and useful. It means you can guard against errors on the right side of and by checking a safe condition on the left. So now we have talked a lot. Now we'll check a real example of fun logic eligibility check. I've already written the code before. Now I'm going to just copy it here and show you what this is about. First, we have a username variable where we are entering the input function, and we are using the strip. Why we are using strip? Let's check before. And we are using the password input, taking a password and also taking input of age. And we have already mentioned that isBand is false, and we check if we have three variables. First is has credentials. It checks if it has username and password, and the is old enough checks if the age is greater than equal to 13, and the is allowed variable check if it's not banned. So now we'll start running this. So when we have put a small if statement also, which I'll explain later. So first I say my username is Akshaj Piri. I put my password as test 123 and I write my age as 19. It gives me a proper access granted, because first in the if statement we check if it has credentials, it is old enough, and it is allowed based on the conditions we have mentioned above. If all these are satisfied, it gives me an access granted message. But what if this is not the same case? So I'll learn it again. This time I won't put a username, I'll put a password 123, I'll put my age 19. I did not put a username properly, so my username was not available, and so it gives me this one, username and password are required. If it all also will be work if I put my age as less than say 18, less than 13. So if I put age as 8, it'll give me that I have to be at least 13 years to use this service. But what if I want isBand? If I put isBand as true, which means I am banned. So if I run this, no matter what good I put, even if my age is greater than 13, it will give me that this user has been suspended because I've put this as true. So one last thing before we end this. And or don't always return true or false. They return one of their operands. For example, I have this print function where I'm entering hello and world. It gives me world. And then the first false values it finds, or the last value if all are truthy. So if I do the whole thing, I've written the code for world, empty string, hello world. And the first false value it finds and the last value if all are truthy. Or returns the first truthy value it finds or the last value if all are falsy. This unlocks the useful pattern, default values. So I have a small code down. It takes me a name variable where I have to input my name. I have a display name where it says it has to be name or anonymous, and then I write a print statement where it says hello with the print statement. For example, first I'll write my name and it gives me a proper value, no issue. And now I won't write my name, I'll just I'll write nothing. And now it gives me anonymous. It does not raise me any problem because I had put an OR function. If the name was empty, it's falsy, or false true anonymous. If name has content, truthy, and all returns it immediately. So one line, clean default, and no if statements are needed. So now we'll recap what we have covered. And means both sides must be true, then it stops early if the left side is false. Or one side at least should be true and stops early if the left side is true. Not what it does, it flips a boolean, makes negative conditions read naturally. So if it's true, if you use not true, it is false, and not false evaluates to true. And there's also a precedence when not is first, then and, then or. And we can use parentheses where we are combining multiple logical operators together. We also talked about short circuit evaluation, which means Python skips the right side when the result is already determined, and we can use it to guard against errors. And we also talked about how and or return operands, not just true and false, and enables a clean default value patterns. So that was the video, and if you liked it, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.